who told me about an Italian guy who came here with 2.5 million euros and now he's basically living on the street.
You never know when is the last day of your life. So it's kind of adventure if you're looking for, but same time is a reality we live in 21st century. Definitely less guys, less foreigners, less local people in restaurants and bars, but definitely more girls.
Привіт iz Lvova. Greetings from lovely Lviv in the west of Ukraine. Now, many people believe it is absolutely insane to come to Ukraine. Clearly, this country has been subject to the biggest war in Europe since World War II. It is still ongoing. However, if you are in a city like here in Lviv that is far from the front lines, then life goes on as normal as possible as it can in such a situation. It's a beautiful late morning in early May, and Lviv in fact has a big coffee culture, so the cafes and the terraces are thronged with people having a cup of kava, enjoying a coffee, and everything more or less works. Your electricity, internet, heating, although you don't need it in this beautiful weather, maybe the aircon, and so forth. So in this video, I want to outline the mentality that you need if you're going to come here to Ukraine, who it is maybe a good idea for, who maybe not such a good idea for, and a little bit about the logistics of coming here, life in Ukraine, the safety aspects, socializing, and doing business. And if you're new to this channel, my name is Connor Klein, and I help high-level men live their dream lifestyle in the region that I refer to as New Europe. And before the Russian invasion of 2022 of Ukraine, I had the premier channel on relocation and socializing in Ukraine. And now I help my clients mainly with the alternatives, like going to, say, Moldova, Romania, Poland, the 3 Baltic states, Kazakhstan. And I have also been helping many of my clients. Normally these are guys that have significant others from Ukraine, so wife, fiance, girlfriend, with still coming here, buying property, getting their residency, maybe even opening a business. So I am here to explain how I mentor my clients with coming here so that they can be in the best position to succeed. So with all that said, let's get into today's video. Adimo! Атмосфера у Львові зараз, тому що є війна, так, і дуже мало туристів, тільки українські люди, во всьому, так, або є багато туристів, що ти думаєш?
Ну, мені здається, є багато туристів. Я замічаю, що реально багато туристів, але менше. Звісно, менше, тому що війна і люди бояться просто їхати. Ну, атмосфера, як, знаєте, коли є сонечко, гарний настрій, але тільки тривога, стає страшно, звісно. У Львові просто, напевно, мені здається, не так страшно, як, наприклад, в Києві чи в якихось інших містах, де є більше прильотів, більше тривог. От, тут якось більш безпечно просто. Загалом, нормально.
Нормально тут, так?
Нормально.
І ви думаєте, що дивно, якщо туристи приїдуть сюди, або це нормально? Що думаєте, це добра ідея чи ні?
Я думаю, це хороша ідея.
Хороша ідея?
Наоборот, хай приїдуть, подивляться, як тут, розкажуть, як в нас...
Як їм враження від самого Львова.
Так.
Тут багато архітектури, є на що подивитися.
Так.
Окей, все добре.
Це хороша ідея.
So the Russo-Ukrainian war is the biggest war in Europe since World War II. However, Ukraine has not stopped living. There are businesses open, restaurants, cafes full. People are taking strolls along the promenade. People are going on with their everyday life. Children are going to school in spite of Russian rocket attacks and air alerts. So there is this interesting dichotomy between, on one hand, horrific war and war crimes by Russia, and the opposite fact that normal daily life does continue here in Ukraine. And if you're going to the 5 cities that I visited in Ukraine since 2022, the risk level on an individual basis every day is not significantly high. Obviously, you need to process that and decide if it's for you or not to come here. However, it is very easy to get sucked into a mindset of believing that everywhere is extremely dangerous in Ukraine all the time because of what happens on the front line cities in particular, or on the front lines themselves. This is not representative of the actual reality of living in Ukraine. And some cities are a lot safer than others. Some cities that are in the very west of Ukraine have not been significantly impacted by the war compared to cities that are obviously a lot further east. So, are you scared to be here in Odessa? What is the situation like?
Unfortunately, we are humans, like animals, we're used to everything. So, yeah, it was scary in the beginning, but you used to air raids, you used to shaheds, you used to ballistics. So, actually, yes, I'm scary, but I used to that. So, there is no other options.
So maybe explain, why did you come back to Odessa? Just because it's your hometown, or a lot of people are curious as to why Ukrainian, especially girls, would come back because they can leave and they can live anywhere in the European Union?
Let's say the quality of life in Ukraine was always better, at least for me. I was traveling a lot before the war, and I have the opportunity to do it right now. And I like to travel, but I was never thinking about to live in any other country. And war even proves this, even due to this difficult time, still life in Ukraine is better than anywhere else. Yes, it's crazy, but it's true. And you have to see, you have to visit Ukraine, and then you will understand.
Okay, that's very inspiring. How hard is it to cross the border? Do we have blockouts here? What are the questions? Because you get a lot of questions.
Not hard. I would say you need to fly to Chisinau, to Moldova, and then you take 4 hours bus or 3 hours taxi, and you are in Odessa. So it's pretty easy due to our reality. And or you go to Poland and you take a direct train to Kiev or to Lviv, which is longer but still okay.
Okay. And do we have blackouts here? What is life like in Odessa on day to day?
Actually, this year is much better, and we, let's say, well prepared for future explosion. So currently we don't have any blackouts. We have very good internet, Wi-Fi, mobile connection, ATM, everything works as everywhere else.
Okay, so there isn't really much difference.
No problems
We have
at all.
curfew though. How strict is the curfew?
Unfortunately, yes, we have a curfew from midnight till 5 a.m. and depends on the city, but it's strict in Odessa. Maybe it's not as strict in Lviv, but in Odessa, yeah, after midnight you need to be home.
Why should guys or girls come to Odessa? Now it's the beginning of summer 2025, where we're shooting this in mid-June, this clip. What's the attraction? Why should they come?
I think, it's very historical moment for Ukraine, so a lot of people can be part of this history at the moment. It's first reason. Second, to see this, I will say, unbreakable spirit of Ukrainians. And third, to see how resistant we are, because during the day you can have absolutely good, normal life, and during the night it's pretty hard. Sometimes, not always. But every day people, I will say, continue, life goes on, and people really catching this life every day, because you never know when is the last day of your life. So it's kind of adventure if you're looking for, but same time is a reality we live in 21st century.
And you said that everything works, like we don't have blackouts. What's the cost of living like in Odessa? Because one might think, because of a war, that it's hard to get basic essentials, or that the prices are very high for certain products. How do you find the cost of living?
I will say prices in supermarket are kind of the same for me as in Poland at the moment. Even some products are more expensive, but if you're talking about restaurants, you can have a good lunch for 10-15 euro. So prices are still good for foreigners, but actually a little bit higher for Ukrainian compared to Ukrainian salary.
2021, I don't think there's any increase in prices from 2021.
Definitely foreigners wouldn't see the difference.
Yeah. I think it's the same price as 2021. I think accommodation is actually cheaper.
Definitely cheaper because we don't have so many tourists at the moment. So prices for hotels are definitely cheaper.
Okay. And if you were a single guy, because you helped a lot of guys in the past, who wanted to go to bars, hang out. What do you think? Do you think it's a good idea to come here?
I wouldn't. I can say what I noticed, that it's definitely less guys, less foreigners, less local people in restaurants and bars, but definitely more girls. So I don't know, but it's definitely less competition for guys, for you, right now. Absolutely.
So fortune favors the brave in that sense.
I think the biggest fear for you, you're afraid to come because you're afraid of attacks, which is totally understandable. But as soon you have a hotel with a shelter, with basement, with parking spot, whatever, you save 100%. So that's the only tip I will give you. Just rent a hotel with a shelter and you're going to be safe 100%.
Or an apartment.
On an apartment, anything which has a underground space, basement.
Okay, so then you can be sure that if you go down to the basement...
Yeah, you're safe. Yeah, so you don't have to worry. And in the city, every block has their own shelter also. So if you hear a siren during the day outside on the street, in a distance of 300, 500 meters, you definitely will find a shelter. So you have enough time to hide.
Okay. And are the beaches open?
Oh, beaches are open. Beaches are great. And it's a lot of people last weekend. So season finally started. And it actually was fully booked, some of the beach clubs. So I was surprised that it's a lot of people at the moment.
Okay, so good vibes in Odessa Mama on the...
Very good vibes, new restaurants, new cafe, new beach clubs, and new even like pool area. I didn't even see everything yet because it's a lot. So definitely, I will say during the day, you not even notice the war.
Okay, wow. Have you been to other cities in the last year, like Kyiv, Lviv?
Yes, I was in
Chernovtsi?
Kyiv, I was in Lviv, and I will say the most crazy party life, at least for me, looks like in Lviv. Lviv close to the border, so somehow curfew is not as strict as in other cities. So party city is more Lviv than as a stereotypical Odessa. And Kyiv, but Kyiv is just crazy and busy as always, so nothing new.
Are you considering traveling to Ukraine during the Russo-Ukrainian War? If you are, I have a perfect companion for you. It is my Insider's Guide to Ukraine during the war, and it is available for purchase via the link down below in the description to this video. Inside, you're going to find super important logistical and safety information for traveling to Ukraine, a bit about the history of the country, and my hospitality guide for 5 cities in this country, here in Odessa Mama, up in the capital Kyiv, and 3 cities further to the west, namely Uzhhorod, Chernovtsi, and Lviv. And there you will get some really good insights and information about where to go, the history of this fantastic country, and how to stay as safe as possible during this time of existential crisis in Ukraine. On top of that, I have a similar guidebook for the neighboring country Moldova, in particular its capital Chisinau. There I have compiled a phenomenal hospitality guide for the best cafes, restaurants, clubs, shisha lounges, and bars. It took me 4 summers already to compile that source of fantastic information that will just save you probably months of time figuring out where everything is. On top of that, since Moldova is world famous for its viticulture, its fantastic wineries, I've also gone to 10 vineyards, the top 10 vineyards in Moldova. So you can read my reviews of them individually as well. So both of those guides are going to save you just a huge amount of time, and I advise you invest in them if you were considering a trip to either Ukraine or Moldova at the moment. So down below, my Insider's Guide to Ukraine during the war, and my Insider's Guide to Magical Moldova. So even with this horrific war, there are some foreign investors who are coming here and putting their money into projects and businesses that both help Ukraine and, of course, generate profits. So let's go and talk to a prominent European businessman about the investment climate currently in Ukraine. Vladimo, so Thomas, what are the risk factors to coming and investing in Ukraine at the moment? And some of them are very obvious, but it's always good to get a...
Most people would think it's the war, but I don't think that, at least not where we are situated now in Odessa. I think if you take Odessa, Uman, Kiev, and to the west of that, I think everybody is sure it's not going to be Russia, so it's more a matter of normal business life here. And you can say compared to Western Europe, there is a lot of challenges. It's kind of outweighed by the potential here, which is at the moment even bigger than before the war. I mean, first time I said Ukraine was a good place to invest in was in 2015, and it was just after Russia had gone into Donbass and taken Crimea, and things hasn't changed. There is an eager to be Western orientated, to have business which kind of relate and do business with Europe, and it means that there's a lot of possibilities here, which is obvious for the fact that cost of living and thereby also wages are lower here than they are in Western Europe. But there's also a lot of business to be done here directly, like especially now with the war, that you can help with infrastructure, you can help with energy. There's a big desire to split energy into smaller units like wind turbines, biofuels, solar plants and things like that. So there is in all aspects, there is a good focus. You can also say that compared to before the war has kind of broken the power of the oligarchs. The war kind of forces Ukraine to focus on being the most cost-efficient army in the world, which means supplies to the armies are based on price value and not on who gets the biggest bribe and things like that. So it's going the right way for sure. And I see it also in the way that, for instance, the Danish embassy is very active. We are 2 hours drive from here. They are in Mykolaiv and they're doing very well there, doing a lot of investment, and they of course prefer to do business with Danes because they're then sure that everything is fine. Second choice would be Western Europeans. So third choice would be local, where they can be a little bit scary about that. They don't say it, obviously they don't say that, but that's just a fact. And I think that goes for all countries that is investing here. And the embassies are all very active. The Danish embassy used to be, I think, 7 or 9 employees before, 22 more, but now they are over 60 employees, so they really focus on this. So, yeah.
Okay, what would you say about legal predictability in Ukraine with the courts? Do you think that's improved over the last year? Do you think that's a major difference from doing business, say, in Western Europe?
I would just say avoid it. Simply avoid. I mean, make good contracts, has good lawyers, do the things, so it's very well. If you end in legal fights, there's a big chance that people are kind of criminals in their actions. So I see some cases where things happening that would not happen in Denmark, and that include false statement by opponents and things like that, and deliberate fraud, which is rarely happening in Denmark. So yes, it's more tough here. That's why, avoid it. I would not advise anybody to maybe make a joint venture unless you know the person you do it with very, very well, because it is risky. And I just 2 days ago talked with a Luxembourg investor who lives here, which is my friend, who told me about an Italian guy who came here with 2.5 million euros, and now he's basically living on the street. So it is tough, but it's also if you're not careful. Don't believe the golden promises. Take it cool. I have said no to tons of deals because I don't want to get involved with certain peoples, and I want to have my freedom. I want to be my own master in everything, because I trust myself, but I don't trust a lot of other people. So that's how it is, yeah.
Okay, great. So would you say the sectors, the foreigners who are looking to invest in that should consider Ukraine would be, say, the defense industry? I mean, that's for obvious reasons. I think you already mentioned to me off camera freight, and also the minerals deal that was signed. Do you think that will bring any investment opportunities?
I think I must admit I'm not a specialist in minerals, and I think it's a huge investment to start getting minerals out somewhere. But I think there is a lot of other opportunities. Energy, as we also talked about, infrastructure, freight. I had a Danish company contacting me about freight. I made with the biggest Danish organization of of employers. I made the Danish-Ukrainian Business Chamber in Kiev, and we started half a year ago. We had a Danish minister open it up, and we have helped a lot of companies with things like translation, going to fairs to try to find customers and so on. But we even go as far as we have established the first Danish company, which is established with our help, where we basically take care of all the administration. So it's in compliance, and I'm like a kind of a substitute director, so they don't have to send a Dane here. And we basically we run all the business for them, open, transparent pricing and so on, and conditions that they can always kick us out if they want, take away what they want. But it allowed them to just send the sales guy in here, and they have already made huge orders. Unfortunately, they are doing prosthesis when you have blown off your feet in the war. So obviously, sadly, it's a huge market, and they are world leaders about that. But they are doing very well. We see it with somebody who makes concrete factories, who is also, we help. They have not established anything yet. And we have talked with defense companies. We talk with Danish freight companies also about helping them. So my first advice would probably be to don't be afraid of the war. Take a week here where you have just some point where you would like to see what you would like to try. Go and see some things. Get a feeling if you think something is doing here. It's like reconnaissance basically, and find out the potential, because the potential is definitely here, there's no doubt.
Okay, super cool. And finally, what would you say about real estate investment? Do you think it's a good time to invest in Ukraine, or not the best time? What do you think about that?
I myself invest in real estate here, so obviously I think I do clever things, so it's the logical answer. Beside that, I would say prices was very high in Kiev back 8-10 years ago when the first kind of war started. They then dropped dramatically during the war, but now they're up to pre-22 levels. Odessa, where we sit now, is below 22 level, but slowly gaining again. And if you look at the real estate market here, there is huge potentials in. I mean, I invest in offices, but also more housing and renovation and so on. There's challenges, and one of them is difficult to get funding. I mean, I come from Denmark. I'm used to, at this current level, I'll probably borrow money on a 30-year time horizon in Denmark for less than 3% per year. In Ukraine, you would pay about 7-8%, and you would have a time horizon of 5 to 7 years. The loans would be in dollars or euros, which is kind of fine because the real estate market is based on dollar prices, so rent is based on dollars. So basically you minimize your risk by taking dollar loans. The local currency rent interest would be like nearly 20, but it's just like risky business because the exchange rate may fuck up pretty fast. So.
Well, first of all, and I have many clients who are in this position, that they have family, maybe it's relatives, but more often it's that they have a significant other, like a partner, a wife, girlfriend, fiancé, and they come here to see extended family and also to check out the real estate options, because many of them are still see at least part of the future here, and also getting a visa if they want to spend longer than the 90 days visa-free in Ukraine that most of my clients have, whether you're American, British, Western European, many Latin American countries, etc. Now, other people who should be considering coming are those that are just, I guess, more adventurous by nature, and they actually want to see what's going on here on the ground. And in particular, those that want to come here and support Ukraine in this very difficult time. Maybe you want to contribute to the humanitarian effort. I also have clients who are doing that. The military effort in terms of national defense. You also have many investors that are coming here because they see opportunities with the defense industry in Ukraine, also in terms of investing in other businesses that presumably will be very profitable in the future, like agriculture, for example. Also, many other of my clients are considering maybe relocating here after the end of the hostilities, and they actually want to come now and figure out where they might like to live in the country, also what the real estate market is like when they're making these more longer term plans. And definitely if you're coming here to support the country, at this time, it would be greatly appreciated. Maybe that's just documenting your trip and pumping money into local businesses, or it's doing something that is a lot more, I guess, impactful, like with humanitarian aid and the military. Definitely, as you can see behind me, we're here in September, beautiful weather. This used to be the main tourist spot the foreigners would come and see. This is Arcadia in Odessa by the seaside. However, there are hardly any international tourists here for the last few years. It's mainly local tourism. So that is the kind of mindset that I think you should have. Obviously, you need to be cognizant of the risks when you make that decision. And if you are considering to come, Laskavo Prosimo do Odessy. Are you considering coming to Ukraine during this Russo-Ukrainian war? If so, then I am your Irish insider here on the ground. This afternoon I'm in Odessa. That's a beautiful opera house just behind me. And recently I was here with a client. We did a trip where we went to Lviv and Chernovtsi in the west of Ukraine, then came down through Moldova, through the capital Chisinau, to Odessa. And my client got a lot of great value out of it because he was able to get an overview of the different regions, not just in Western Ukraine, also here in Southern Ukraine and Moldova. And it would put him in a lot better position to judge where he wants to move to in the medium to long term. Lots of things like what is the atmosphere of the city, what are the pluses and minuses, how are the people, the languages, also the opportunities in terms of buying real estate, getting a visa to stay longer, maybe invest or even open a local business. Maybe you're also interested in supporting the Ukrainian defense of their sovereignty, like many of my other clients have been doing. And maybe you're also a single guy wondering about how everything works in terms of networking with cool local guys and meeting the local beautiful women. If that sounds like you and you're willing to come here at the moment, then down below in the description is an application to my in-person immersion. Go ahead, fill it out, and if I feel it's a good fit for us to work together, then we will jump on a call pretty soon together, and it could be you here with me sometime soon in a city like Odessa. In the meantime, keep supporting Ukraine, and do побачення. Slava Ukraini, do перемоги.